Hey everybody, welcome back to Mary Bird's Backyard Garden. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Mary.
And we're here for another week of podcasting, Mary.
And we're bringing our green thumbs with us.
Whoa! Okay, I'm going to check my thumbs.
You got your green
You got
thumbs?
a green thumb.
You got a green thumb on?
I got a brown, crusty thumb.
No, you do not.
Yes, I do.
Is that from your car
That's right.
shenanigans?
Right. Car shenanigans, sports shenanigans.
Sports
all kinds of shenanigans. So,
well, we're joined by the famous duo here in the podcast studio today. The famous duo of Gilder and Brooke.
Gilder and Brooke, the wonder dogs.
The wonder dogs.
Who savage the garden if we didn't have a fence up.
They would.
But
they would be going after those lizards crazy.
They would. They're pretty fun little dudes, though. I like them. Or guys and girls, as we say. Brother and sister. Boykin Spaniels.
Great gardening friends.
Yeah, they're great dogs.
They are.
If you've not heard of Boykin Spaniels, you might want to give it a look because they are really, really cool dogs. When we were looking for dogs for puppies, we were replacing a couple that had sadly passed away. We wanted something that was active, but not crazy active. And we looked at we did a lot of research.
We did.
And we came up with the Boykin, which is a South Carolina dog. It was bred. It's fairly new. It's early 1900s. So
I think it's very recently allowed to go into the Westminster.
I think so. I think they were just allowed just a few years ago. So they're a fairly new breed. They're really, really pretty dogs. But the thing we like about them is if we want to go for walks or go do stuff, they're happy to go run around. But if we want to just hang out at home, they're more than happy to just sit on the couch hang out with us too. So they're not hyper dogs. They're really cool. They love going out in the backyard. They will not go in the backyard without us, unfortunately.
So funny.
They're really, really. So if you're looking for a people dog and not a independent dog,
they are a people-centric
This is
dog.
them.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. We have to halfway walk out off the patio before they'll even go out in the yard. So
yeah, they're looking over their shoulder, and they're very intelligent.
Yeah, they are.
They're fun because you can teach them all kinds of things, and they're hilarious.
They're
really
good dogs,
good,
and they were bred.
Personalities.
They were bred for duck hunting. Where I'm not a hunter, but I do fish, but not hunt. And they are duck hunting dogs. If you care to do that,
I think one of the attributes that most caused their breed to be very popular was because you could go out in a boat that sits kind of low to the water, and the dog will slip over the edge to go get the duck and then come and get back in.
Yeah.
And they have soft mouths.
They do. And they're a spaniel dogs. They're 35-ish, 36-pound dogs.
Right.
But anyway, really cool dogs. We've decided that they like to bark downstairs, and so we brought them up to the studio.
So we've invited them.
They're in the studio with us. So hopefully they don't talk.
They're laying under the table with their heads on our feet.
They are. Hopefully they don't hear any noises and start yelping.
Correct.
Okay.
We'll have to edit that part out.
Yeah. So with that said, Mary, what's new in the garden?
Fall has arrived.
It's yahoo! I love it.
Fall is here.
I know, I love it. I'm
Pumpkin
excited.
season.
We haven't seen the temperature drop yet. We're still hovering in the 90s.
We are getting cooler nights.
Oh, good grief!
Cooler mornings.
Come on, when it's still in the 90s.
Evenings. I mean, later in the evening, it's cooler.
Okay, last night it was not. So we were out late last night, and it was hot.
It was still pretty hot.
Yes.
Around 7.
Anyway,
yeah.
the calendar says fall, so we're hoping we start actually seeing it. Anyway, what you got?
We are seeing it. I mean, the leaves on the redbud tree are beginning to fall.
They are. That's true.
Yeah.
That's right. The plants know it.
They do.
Yeah.
And the sycamores around town, they're usually one of the first signals that fall is on its way. They're starting to drop their leaves too, which is wonderful, very exciting. And I'm happy. It's time for cider.
Oh, boy. It's football season.
Pie.
It's football season. Come on.
It's so funny because here in Texas, it's sweat and football season.
Yeah, it
They
is.
go together, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's still fun. And other things that we've noticed in the garden are we've kind of noticed a migration of tarantula, sort of. Today, when we were out on our walk, you saw a big old tarantula.
I did.
And scorpions, I've been seeing scorpions run across the sidewalk, and I don't know if that's related to fall or whatever. But
scorpion season, no.
It's scorpion season. And what else have we done?
How are the plants? So the plants, so you did a lot of thinning and trimming of plants over the last week or so.
I did.
Kind of getting everything cleaned up a little bit. A lot of the things that were annuals, I believe, right?
That's correct. The morning glory.
Yeah.
Take that out.
Clean those up a little.
You know, one thing that surprised me and delighted me was the morning glory vine grew up, spread out, and covered over the Anacacha orchid and one of our rose bushes. You know, pretty thoroughly grew all up around it. But those two plants excelled through this summer. It helped retain moisture in the soil. I don't know if that could have been why, but both of those plants saw a lot of growth.
Good.
And one of them was a Westminster or Westmoreland antique rose that we got a long time ago from the Antique Rose Emporium. And I really did not think that rose was going to last or continue, but it thrived this summer underneath that morning glory vine.
Good, because they're roses. That's why I like them.
Because they're roses.
They live. Those roses are pretty
tough cookies.
They are. I gotta say, they take a lot of abuse, and they can. They really. I mean, I don't know that we've ever seen one actually just die, but I mean Sometimes they look a little rough, but they always come back.
They come back.
So I like it. Good.
And other than that, yep, it is the time of year to continue weeding, keep on doing your regular stuff, but we are kind of turning the page and getting ready to slow down in the garden.
I like it. No, I'm just kidding. No, I like playing in the garden, but
the work never ends. We did pot up one of our raised bed containers. And I put in some pentas, and I put in some, I can't think of the name, Gerbera daisies, I think was one of the things I picked up for some bright color right away. We put in Swiss chard, and I put in a broccoli, and we put in petunias, and it's doing so good. Yeah.
Very good.
I love that.
All right. Well, with that said, what do you have on the agenda for us today?
Oh, well, it's sort of a sad, happy discussion that we're going to have today.
Oh, okay. Okay. What do you got?
Back,
what do you got?
You had purchased a Boston Fern for your office.
I did. I was trying to go back to my 70s.
Your 70s vibe.
Roots, yeah.
Do you have those bell bottoms? Anyways, this Boston Fern did very well for quite a while. And then in August, I don't know, maybe life got a hold of us, or maybe for some other reason, it's very bedraggled. It's very sad.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's very poorly.
But we did. We went on vacation.
We did.
And when we came back, it was a bit rough.
It was rough, but it's not totally gone. So we are going to, I did some research online, and we're going to give it our best shot to regenerate your Boston Fern.
Oh, I like that.
Because the Southern Living Encyclopedia lists the name for these. You could call them a sword fern. You could call them a Boston fern, or the name for them is Nephrolepis exaltata.
Okay.
And that's, what we commonly grow in our houseplant. And I don't know the variety. We've had this for so long now that's lost in history. But they have this listed as a tough and easy to grow plant.
Oh,
so we
okay.
are going to see how tough it is and easy to grow.
I don't think it's easy.
I don't know.
I remember just even way back when they were just like crazy popular.
Yes.
Even then, it's the same. I think you just have to really tend to it. So I don't know if I wouldn't
pay attention.
I mean, for me, easy to grow is like a succulent or something. You just kind of, oops, I forgot to water it and throw some water on it. I don't think these are that way. I think you have to keep it misted and watered.
You have to pay attention.
You do have to pay attention to it. So I'm going to argue with the easy to grow aspect there.
It's more a plant where you kind of have a friendship with it rather than you just walk by every once in a while and go, ooh.
Okay.
A little bit like that. Now, I'm very excited that the kalanchoe that we planted last week is doing very well. We have it on the fireplace ledge and we have some grow lights on. So I think I'm enjoying it thoroughly. And I do believe you put a picture on our blog post, right?
I did.
Of our little planting.
I did.
So I anticipate the Boston fern to be a little bit different. But we're going to roll up our sleeves and do our best.
All right.
See
I thought it was gone. So hey, if you can revive it, that would be awesome.
Let's do that. Okay. So what's it going to take to revive it?
Yes, I want to know. What is it going to take for you to revive my plant?
Especially. Well, first we're going to consider what kind of container we want to repot it in. I'm pretty sure it's probably not root bound. I've got to take it out of the container. And if your roots are circling around and around the container, of course, you want to increase the size. Not by a lot, though, just a tiny bit larger. So I anticipate trying to get either a glazed terracotta pot that would kind of, be pretty and decorative with it, or perhaps a plastic pot inside of another container that would make it look pretty.
Okay.
For growing indoors, it was recommended not to have too porous of a container so that you can regulate the water a little bit better. Because we will also want to consider what kind of soil. And you brought me home a bag of our Happy Frog Ocean Forest.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to split it, maybe half the Ocean Forest and half the Happy Frog potting mix.
Okay.
And so it needs to be very well draining, but it also needs to have a fibrous component to where it will hold on. Because if you think about they grow in humid environments. They grow along forest floors that have, that spongy layer to the forest floor. They grow, in tropical areas a lot. Oh, and one interesting thing is that it's called a Boston fern because in 1894, it was shipped to a show from Philadelphia to Boston. And that's where it got the name Boston fern.
I like it.
But anyway, that's a side note.
Side note.
I was interested, I was interested in the aspect of the humidity like you talked about. So a lot of people do mist their plants. And I do think it's recommended that you do that often. But another way that you could kind of provide that humid environment is to place it in a tray where you have pebbles and you put water. So your container is kept out of the water, but you get that updraft of humidity.
Oh, okay.
And also to group several houseplants together so that they could share that environment between them.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of, and I remember too, they were hanging plants. So it'd be kind of hard to do that if it was a hanging plant, right?
Yeah, you're correct. You're correct.
You usually see them hanging, right? That's kind of I didn't, but that's kind of.
I did read in one of my articles where the grower would have the hanging basket, usually maybe a cocoa coir fiber lined hanging basket. And so there would be space between that and the container of the fern, and they would keep that cocoa coir liner very moist.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of hard to do. You have to keep at it. You can't let it dry out or it wants to repel the water. So, but that's the way that they would help to create that nice
good
moist
good
environment.
Idea. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, another thing about a hanging in the house, if you have a hanging plant, and indeed this is for all of your ferns, you want to be careful about where you place it. You don't want to have a draft coming in from a door or an open window. You don't want it to sit under a heating vent or anything like that. They really do like a stable temperature.
Okay.
And so we used to live in Minnesota. Do you remember we used to take some outings with our kids and we would go walk through the forest? And we always thought, we're going to go to the forest. It's going to be cool. It's going to be so comfortable under the trees. But actually, when you get under the trees, the air is fairly still.
Yeah.
It's actually not, you don't really get that rush of fresh air. And the ferns do very well there.
Yeah.
And so
I remember that.
That's what it wants to have in your home.
Okay.
According to what I'm reading.
Well, if you're reading it, it's got to be true.
It's got to be right. But anyway, so you want to kind of look out for that around your house. See if you could find a place where the temperature is going to be in temperature that you like to be in is what they like to be in.
Okay.
And you had a really good spot in your office.
Yeah, I did. It was in front of the window.
It was.
So it got morning sun.
But you don't really open those windows too often. So
no, but it was getting the sun in the mornings. But then it passed over passes over pretty quick from the front.
Does.
So yeah, it was in a good spot. I think it just got neglected there for
a little bit,
a little while. Yeah.
And that's the thing about it. I think they tell you to be careful in your watering. And water it, let the soil drain, and then let the top inch dry out. Well, that is sometimes hard for me to judge. So I think one of the tips that I'm planning to use is a moisture meter. And so I can gauge how far down it's dry. So, and have a soil that's able to let the water drain through fairly quickly. But you do want to keep a nice, even moisture to your plant. They enjoy that. Okay. And also the other thing is when you do water your plant, you don't want to just run that cold tap water and pour it over the soil. You want to let it sit out, let it come up to room temperature. They don't really like chlorinated. So if you could let your water sit out and overnight or something like that before you water your plant, they like that better.
Okay.
And so keep it evenly moist. Use a moisture meter to see if it's not too wet or too dry. Keep it. And also sometimes they say you could tell by lifting the container. If it's full of water, it's going to be very heavy, or if it's so dry, it's going to be very light. I think that's what happened. It got dry. It got unevenly watered.
Yeah, I was trying to spritz it and stuff, and then I'd water it when it's. But yeah, I think so. Well, I'm excited.
I mean, it's just paying attention. Now, really, ideally, the time to do this whole situation is in the spring, but we're just going to go ahead and do it right now.
Bring it back.
And
come on
bring
now.
it inside.
I'm rooting for you, Mary.
You know what I was surprised about?
What?
Which, really surprised me, was that they are supposed to be hardy outdoors from zones 9 to 11. And we're in zone 9A. So
I don't see that with the heat and stuff. Man.
I don't think that they love it. They really want to grow in the shade.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't think they love it in the heat. But it says
interesting.
9 to 11.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be an indoor guy.
Traditionally, I think they grow the West Indies. They grow Mexico. They grow kind of in humid environments more towards the equator. Probably they don't have big fluctuations in temperature.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe.
Interesting. That is interesting.
Thought. But also, let's say we do want to plant them outside next year and use them as a ground cover in that little bit of shade we have. So they do very well with things like impatiens and begonias, like wax begonias, and those are good to grow outside here. And your favorite coleus that we've grown indoors all summer, caladiums and taurinia. I don't know what that plant is. I'm going to have to look that one up. But yeah,
okay.
I think
it would be interesting to try it out there. See, I'm honestly, I've only seen them as houseplants, so it'd be interesting to try.
Yeah. While we're growing them in the house, and we are talking about light, you do want them to have bright light, kind of indirect sunlight, not afternoon blazing heat or whatever. But as we're coming into the winter, I'm going to have to play around with that a little bit because, I think it would do well in fairly well lit area. But also, so our plant has brown stems coming out everywhere. So what you want to do is you want to take some scissors or clippers that you've sanitized, and you want to trim away all the brown fronds and the crispy leaves. And you want to be prepared for them to possibly drop leaves after you do this process. They tend to do that. But just trust that the roots are going to reinvigorate themselves and get going again.
Okay.
And I'm planning to follow all these tips.
Thank you.
Somehow. And I saw some people online that actually did some root pruning when their Boston fern was heavily root pot bound. And so they trimmed away some of the circling roots to encourage more root growth. And it was recommended to give your Boston fern a dilute houseplant food once a month. So you would, like if it called for a teaspoon in a gallon of water, maybe you would do a quarter of a teaspoon or something like that. Now, during the winter, which we're entering into, in the normal way, you don't want to water heavily during the winter because it's not the natural growth period. But I'm going to be a little bit more watering because we're trying to reinvigorate our fern. I'm going to give that a try. And sometimes people bring them inside, like into their garage or something, and they'll just give them water maybe every 2 weeks or so forth when they're trying to overwinter them. So I'm in an experimental phase. We're going to see.
Well, I'm rooting for you.
We're going to see how that goes.
I'm rooting for you.
Yeah.
I'll be your cheerleader.
And I'm hoping to have some photos of what we're going to do. And while your Boston fern is growing, don't be afraid to go in there. If you see leaves that are browning, things like that, don't be afraid to prune those out. You'll just cause your plant to want to put forth new growth.
Okay.
And Boston ferns have a few insects that are problematic. They have aphids and spider mites. And what you want to do, let's say your Boston fern happens to get one of those problems, you can blast them off with a good spray of water. Usually you'll find the little aphids clustered along the stem or whatever. And then if you do happen to get a fungus gnat, what you want to do is go to your local garden center and get a mosquito bits. And what that is Bacillus thuringiensis. And sprinkle it on the soil, and that is it's actually a bacteria, and that's going to cause the fungus gnats to die off. And that's what you want to do to take care of those problems.
Very good. Good tips.
Yeah.
I like it. Like I said, I'm really rooting for you because I like that plant.
And in the springtime, let's say it does rejuvenate.
It will rejuvenate. Let's say it did rejuvenate.
Flushes out. Or if you buy a new plant in the springtime, but you'd like to have several plants, you can divide your Boston ferns at that time and create more plants from one.
I like it. We got to try it. We got to try where we plant one or something outside. I'm curious to see. I've literally never seen them growing outside.
Even if you put it in a hanging basket underneath our redbud tree might work out really nice. Might grow pretty.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
See how it works.
Now, outside, a lot of people recommend that you do grow them in the the wire basket with a cocoa fiber liner. And, but your roots are really going to dry out. So you got to watch your water. And probably if it gets hot, you might even have to water once or twice a day.
Okay.
Or an unglazed terracotta pot. And I don't really understand the reason why they would recommend that for the outside. I'm not sure. Unless they live in a more rain-filled environment than we do.
Okay.
But
nice.
Those are some tips that I've learned.
Tips of the day from Mary.
I'm going to give it a try.
I like it.
Give it a try.
I like it. Considering it was my plant and you're going to do it. So I like it. I'm excited about it.
While we're doing that, I'm going to also see if this magic might work on the money tree that we bought.
Yeah, the money is dropping dollar bills all over the place.
It is. I feel very sad for it.
I know you were looking up some stuff on it.
Yes. Though. I'm going to give it a little try.
Okay. Cool. What else you got?
That's my main topic of the day for this.
Okay.
Did you have Jeff's
I do. I had a little Jeff's
Corner. I always look forward to Jeff's Corner.
I did. I just wanted to kind of do a quickie on fall lawn care.
Nice.
And this is from your buddy, Neil Sperry.
Oh, I do love Neil Sperry.
I know you love a nice Neil Sperry. So he is he's more of a Texas horticulturist. So he does have a website, neilsperry.com, for all you Texas folks out there. It covers a lot of different stuff. He's been doing this for a long time. But he just some thoughts and some things to look at once fall starts, which we're kind of there, right?
Yes.
So you want to make sure that you're continuing to care for your grass and your turf. So the grass, as we all know, grows year round. The roots are active all throughout the winter. One thing is like, as far as like watering, and I don't know that we're quite there yet, but I think we're close maybe in November. Maybe start watering just once every couple weeks. You want to make sure you continue to water. You don't want to turn it completely off, but once every couple weeks, we can set our sprinkler system. I mean, we're lucky we have an automatic sprinkler system where we can program it. But anyway, either way, once every couple weeks, you do want to water it and make sure it's the staying moist. Like I said, it's continuing to grow, even though it may not look like that. On mowing, so you also want to continue to mow until the grass is just not growing anymore.
Wow.
And then, the one thing you want to do is one of his recommendations is to use the clippings in a compost or place them beneath shrubs or around perennials and use them as mulch. Now I have a mulching mower. And it started to not grow. I mean, I was mowing, like I had to mow every single, clockwork every week.
It was really
starting to get a little bit longer, but the grass, our grass is still very green. Now we do have folks here that have ryegrass or fescue. So the ryegrass will grow all through winter. And, I know in our neighborhood, we've seen people put in ryegrass.
Yes.
And so it's green all winter.
And that is, you seed that out every year because that's an annual, right?
It is. Yeah. I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they do a switch.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And you don't need to feed the warm season grasses, which are St. Augustine and Bermuda or Zoysia, from now until spring. So that's kind of so you want to do, if you have a ryegrass or something, you're going to have to continue to do it. But I think for us, you don't really need to do it once the fall, winter starts coming in. Also, it's not a great time to try to plant new turf grass. So the soils are kind of too cool, or they will be. And so his recommendation is you wait until March. That's South Texas. This is April in North Texas, so we're right in the middle. So, March, April for us. You want to wait and plant any new St. Augustine or Bermuda grass until then. And so just some kind of interesting facts. I mean, our lawn has done well. I will say that the first couple of years we were trying to weed and feed, and
it
was hard.
It was backbreaking. I'm going to say we would weed. Remember, we had this tool where you stepped it into the ground and twisted it, and it would help pull the weeds up.
Yeah.
And we would go out the next morning after a full day of work, and it would be covered again.
I know. It was. I'll say it was rough. We did break down, and we did hire a lawn service to. They come every 7 weeks or so, and they do put down fertilizer, and they do some post-emergent weed control broadly, and they make sure that, and it's been good.
I think that when you first got into doing the lawn care, you told me that they do a humus application. They don't do a fertilizer. They do a humus.
Well, I think they kind of the good thing about it, they change what they're doing based on as the season. So as the Neil Sperry kind of tell you what they'll kind of match. It's spring. We need to do this formula. So they change the formulas, and I will say that our lawn looks good, and it's it's been worth it for us.
Yes.
It was very, very hard to get the weeds were killers, and I mean they were just knocking us. Plus the lawn is really green. So we've enjoyed that. We don't, like I think I said on one of the other ones podcasts, I don't have a service that comes and mows and stuff.
Right.
I enjoyed doing that myself, but we did get this service. They do come by and check on Bermuda.
Sometimes I'm going to be a supporter of hiring a service like that because as homeowners, a lot of times we think if we apply a little bit, maybe we could apply a lot of a bit. And if you overapply, it just gets washed away. Many times you do not want things to wash away off of your land. And so hiring the service, they only apply the correct amount and they apply it at the correct time, which is, I think, environmentally responsible many times.
I think it is. And what they put is,
Yes.
we checked them out. It's not, dangerous chemicals or anything. And I got to say, it's probably one of the best things we've done. And you don't think about it. They just, you get a notice, hey, we're going to be out tomorrow and you don't have to be here. They just come and spray and do what they need to. So it is, for us, it's been worth it. I know maybe not everybody, but that was a big deal for us. And it also helps with knowing that, in winter they're applying this, in spring they apply this. So they kind of apply based on the season. And it's been good. So I wouldn't, normally, I think as Mary said, normally, we're probably not that much of a proponent of some of those, but we did check them out and they were,
Yes,
we've had them for at least 2 years now, and it's made a huge difference in the lawn. So anyway.
Well, you do have to evaluate. It's kind of like a balancing system, I can't scale or whatever. If it's so backbreaking that you can't ever enjoy it, you're going to give up. You do want to have enjoyment in the garden, and there are just some things where you need to reach out for help.
Yeah,
and
I
that's
agree.
one where we did.
I agree. It's not crazy expensive. It's
right.
And it's great. We love it. So anyway, but going back to Neil Sperry, I would recommend, if you get a chance, go check out neilsperry.com.
I do love his site.
I know. You've had his books forever.
Forever.
But he's got a lot of good tips out there, and I'll probably be pulling some more here as we go along. He's got a lot of cool stuff out there. So that's all I had for Jeff's Corner.
I did want to mention that if people out there are having a bit of problem with fire ants right now, which I've noticed a lot of fire ants, I went to harvest some of the chili-tapen peppers out of a container by our front door. And like I said last podcast, I was planting something and the fire ants just came up out of the ground like crazy. Well, while I was trying to harvest those little chili peppers, the fire ants covered my fingers faster than you could blink. So there is a product that works very well. I can't remember if I mentioned it on the last podcast, but it's put out by Fertilome, and what it contains spinosad. And spinosad is a biological control for fire ants. And I just wanted to put it out there in case anybody else is confronting this problem. It's a great product. It works. And I've been very happy with it.
Good.
So I haven't noticed. I have tried very hard to do the molasses trick to encourage the fire ants to go somewhere else. And I do believe in that. I'm not going to stop doing that. It's just that the problem became overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there you go.
Good.
That's a little tip.
Good tipper. I like it. All right. Wait, you got anything else?
I'm going to work on the blog and maybe have some pictures up on resuscitating a Boston
You're going to
fern.
save my Boston fern.
I'm going to save it.
I appreciate you.
I'm ready.
All right.
Happy gardening, everyone, and may all your seeds sprout.
And we'll see you next time. Same place.
Same time.
Same time. Okay. Bye.